Okay, let's dive in. Think about your day, just so far. Every little interaction, right? An email, quick chat,
Hmm.
it's all communication. And these sources we're looking at, they frame it as like the absolute cornerstone of success every way.
Yeah, personal life, work life, you name it. It really shapes everything.
You're doing it constantly, and it really affects how people see you, how deep your relationships go.
And the opportunities you get. It's not just some, soft skill.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
So we've got this great collection of sources here, all digging into the art of effective communication.
Yeah.
Our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack these together, pull out the really key nuggets, the practical
The
stuff,
things that can actually help you become a more effective communicator, starting like now.
because it's way more than just, getting your message across. The
Mm.
sources make that really clear.
Oh, absolutely. It's about really understanding other people, listening with real intention.
And knowing how to respond in a way that actually builds connection, fosters trust, mutual respect.
Exactly. Think of it like mastering a skill that's almost like a master key.
Right. It opens doors, makes your important relationships stronger.
And yeah, ultimately drives your success. And there are some surprising bits in here, some real practical advice.
Things you can start applying straight away. So let's get into it.
Okay, so first up, the sources really push for a fundamental shift, a mindset shift.
Yeah, they challenge that sort of default view, don't they? That communication is just, I don't know, sending information back and forth, like data packets.
Right, exactly. They describe it more as the way we connect with the world. It's how
Yeah.
we build relationships, solve problems, how we literally shape our lives.
So the key idea they're driving home is just how much your communication style impacts, well, everything. Your relationships, your career.
Your quality of life, even.
Right.
We often treat it so transactionally,
Mhm.
I talk, you listen, maybe you reply.
Mm-hmm.
But these sources urge us to see it as a tool, something that builds.
Builds bonds, understanding, trust. It's constructive.
And here's a detail I thought was really powerful. Every single interaction, no matter how small.
Like the coffee machine chat.
Yeah, even that. It's an opportunity for deeper connection and growth. Makes you rethink those conversations that maybe felt a bit flat, right?
Totally. Was the intention just not there? Was I just trying to get through it?
Exactly. So changing that thinking, seeing every interaction as a chance to build something, that's presented as like the essential first step.
That really reframes everyday stuff. Every chat has potential if you approach it intentionally. The goal isn't just talking.
It's to connect.
Okay, so if connection is the goal, the sources say the foundation is listening, but not just hearing.
Right. Listening to understand, that's the phrase they use.
And they call it an art, which implies it's, more than just passively receiving sound.
Definitely. It's described as being present, focusing completely on the other person, trying to grasp the meaning behind the words,
And here's that insight about how most people listen, right? They listen.
waiting for their turn to speak.
Yeah.
That transactional thing again. And the sources argue that's where so much misunderstanding comes from.
Listening to understand means engaging with their thoughts, their feelings, not just prepping your comeback.
Hmm. And the sources get practical here. They say truly listening makes the other person feel valued, important.
How do you do that, though, practically?
Well, it requires consciously setting aside your own thoughts, your judgments, just for long enough to really take in what they're saying.
So, like, bite your tongue if you want to interrupt.
Yeah, be mindful of interrupting or finishing their sentences. Put the phone away. Turn away from the computer screen.
Remove distractions. Makes sense.
And this one's key. Allow pauses. Don't rush to fill silence. The sources say pauses give space to think, to process, for both of you.
That ties right into what they say about empathy, doesn't it?
It does, perfectly.
Yeah.
Listening with empathy means trying to understand and even share their feelings, putting yourself in others' shoes.
So it's not just what they say, but how they feel saying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And validating those feelings, maybe saying something like, I can see why you'd feel that way, is vital, even if you totally disagree with their point.
Because sometimes people just need to be heard, not fixed.
Precisely. They don't always need a solution, just acknowledgement.
And then there's that next level of listening, reading between the lines.
Ah, yeah, tuning into the nonverbals, what's not being said explicitly.
Body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, even silence.
These signals can reveal so much, right? Hidden emotions, maybe different motives, things words alone don't capture.
The classic example they give is tone. I'm not angry, said calmly, versus sharply. Totally different meaning.
Completely. Context matters too, like if someone's stressed. And silence isn't just empty space. It can mean thinking, processing, or maybe discomfort.
So if you change how you listen, be present, be empathetic, tune in to the nonverbals,
The sources suggest it transforms conversations. People trust you more, open up more.
and you actually get the full picture, not just the surface stuff.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's listening, the foundation. But then there's the output, how we speak.
Yeah.
And the sources jump right in saying, your body speaks too.
Loud and clear, often.
Yeah, communication goes far beyond speech. Your body's constantly speaking, even when you're quiet. And they're really clear. Body language often communicates more effectively than your actual words.
Because it's harder to fake, right? If your words say one thing, but your body says another.
People trust the body language,
Hmm.
almost instinctively.
So what cues should we be aware of?
Well, the sources list things like eye contact shows you're present, interested. Posture projects confidence or maybe insecurity. Hand gestures,
Can reinforce or distract, yeah.
facial expressions, obviously. Tone of voice, breathing patterns, even how close you stand to someone, personal space.
And we need to be aware of our own habits, too, like fidgeting or crossing arms.
Definitely. Both your own signals and reading others. You know, someone says, I'm fine, but their arms are clamped shut.
Okay, so body language is huge. Then what about the words themselves?
Here, the principle is interesting. Speaking clearly, less is more.
Less is more. Seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, but it's about precision and purpose, not just volume of words. Getting to the point efficiently actually helps people understand you and take you seriously.
So think before you speak. Is that the core message?
Pretty much. What's the essential thing you need to convey? Strip away the filler. Consider your audience. What do they really need to know?
Avoid jargon they won't get.
Right. Structure your thoughts logically. Even a simple point can have a beginning, middle, end. And use pauses effectively again. Pauses give listeners time to process and can add emphasis.
And this links to speaking with confidence, which isn't arrogance, the sources are careful to say.
No, it's about being clear, composed, and comfortable with what you're saying. It comes from owning your words, believing in your ability to communicate
How do you project that confidence?
through your tone, calm, steady, through body language, tall posture, good eye contact, open gestures. Preparation helps, of course, but also, interestingly, being okay with mistakes. Acknowledging an error makes you relatable, builds trust, which paradoxically builds confidence.
Okay, makes sense. And speaking of connection and making messages stick, storytelling.
Yes, a really powerful way to connect. Stories engage people emotionally, make ideas easier to grasp and remember.
What makes a good story in this context?
Key elements the sources mention. Relatability, can the audience connect? Structure, beginning, middle, end. Specific details use sensory language. Focus, what's the point? Emotion, even vulnerability.
Using pauses for suspense.
Yeah. Engaging the audience, maybe asking questions. Storytelling really builds empathy, shares experience.
So putting it all together, being aware of your body, being intentional with your words, making them clear, confident, maybe structured as a story.
It allows you to communicate more authentically, more powerfully. It's not just what you say, it's profoundly how you say it. And sometimes how you don't say it right away.
Okay, so these principles are great, but what about when things get tough? Difficult conversations.
The sources definitely tackle that. Handling tough talks. And the main idea isn't about avoiding them.
Because you can't always do that.
Right. It's about approaching them, aiming for understanding, respect, and resolution.
Mindset first, again.
Absolutely. Go in with an open mind, with empathy, not just to win the argument. Stay calm. That's crucial.
And be clear about why you're having the conversation. Like, what's the goal?
Yeah, state your positive intentions, seeking a solution, understanding, not just blaming. And they strongly recommend using I statements.
The classic "I feel hurt when" instead of "you always."
Exactly. Focus on your experience, not accusations. Keep the focus on solutions, not just hashing out the problem over and over.
Taking breaks if things get too heated.
Definitely advised.
Yeah.
Avoid personal attacks at all costs, and really try to acknowledge the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree.
Be open to compromise and follow through.
Yes, vital for rebuilding trust.
This feels very connected to managing emotions in general during conversations.
It is. The sources cover that too. Our emotions just massively influence how we talk and listen. High emotion clouds judgment.
So first step is self-awareness. Noticing your own feelings rising.
Pause. Take a breath. Remember, your emotions are probably showing anyway through your tone or body language.
And active listening can actually help de-escalate the other person.
You can, yeah. And empathy helps you manage your own feelings by understanding where they might be coming from. Take that break if needed. Use positive self-talk.
Channeling emotions constructively. Back to those I feel statements.
Exactly. Staying present. Managing emotions just leads to much more productive, respectful outcomes.
Okay, but where we communicate also matters, right? The digital world.
Oh, yeah. Unique challenges there. Mainly the lack of nonverbal cues. Misinterpretation is rampant online.
Because you can't see the person or hear their tone easily.
So you have to be extra careful with your words to convey tone. Emojis can help a bit, but they're not foolproof.
And it's often asynchronous you send, they reply later, requires patience.
Clarity becomes even more critical. Be concise. Think about context, formal email versus informal chat, and use that delay. Digital gives you time to think before hitting send.
Use it wisely. Timing matters too, acknowledging messages, setting boundaries.
It's challenging, but the sources say digital tools can strengthen relationships if you're intentional about applying these communication principles.
Another key application, giving feedback. The sources frame it positively for growth, improvement, and stronger relationships.
Right, not as criticism. The key rule, focus on the behavior or the action, not the person.
Be specific, clear, timely.
Yes. Balance, it mentioned positives too. Make sure it's actionable. What can they actually do? And your tone and body language are vital collaborative spirit, not confrontation.
Create a safe space for it. And receiving feedback, that's a skill too.
Big time. See it as a chance to learn. Listen actively. Ask questions to understand. Take time to process. And don't forget positive feedback. It's powerful. The goal is a culture of growth and mutual respect.
You know, listening to all this navigating tough talks, digital comms, feedback, it all points back to something the sources keep emphasizing.
That this is a process.
Yeah, improving communication is a gradual process, requires ongoing effort, consistent practice. You don't just flip a switch.
No magic wand, unfortunately. They really encourage integrating small practices daily. Like, commit to really active listening in just one conversation a day.
Become more aware of your body language. Maybe ask a friend, or even record yourself briefly.
Seek feedback. Set tiny goals. Keep learning. The main point is that every interaction is an opportunity to practice.
Review how you're doing. Small, consistent changes add up. It's a lifelong thing.
It really is. And underpinning that whole journey is authenticity.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Being yourself. The sources call it one of the most powerful things you can do.
Because people can usually sense fakeness.
Yeah.
Right? Being genuine builds trust, stronger connections.
But it's not an excuse to be blunt or inconsiderate.
Exactly. There's a balance. Authenticity needs respect and context.
Yeah.
But practicing it, even though it takes courage, actually build your confidence over time.
So all these skills, they equip you for specific situations, sure, but also for this continuous growth. It's about consistency, self-awareness.
And having the courage to be genuinely you.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. We started with that mindset shift. Communication is building, not just talking.
Then the huge importance of active listening, being present, empathy, reading the nonverbals.
And speaking with intention, body language alignment, clarity through less is more, confidence, using stories.
And navigating challenges, tough talks,
Yeah.
the digital world, giving and receiving feedback effectively.
All wrapped up in the idea that this is ongoing practice, a journey.
Grounded in authenticity.
And remember the value here for you. Mastering this stuff isn't just for work. It will open doors, strengthen your relationships, drive your success.
Leading to stronger, more meaningful connections overall. It touches every part of your life.
And it is, as the sources say, a lifelong process, always evolving.
Definitely.
So thinking about everything we've just talked through, listening, speaking, handling tricky spots, being authentic, what's maybe the one small, consistent thing, just one tiny practice that you could start integrating, maybe even today?
Just one thing you could try differently in your next interaction.
And how might just that single focused change start to transform that conversation and maybe the ones that follow? Something to think about.